Hey guys, I know I have not posted a YouTube video in almost 2 months, in about maybe 1 month and over 3 weeks, close to 2 months. This YouTube video, it's in specific on a subject, there's something that came up. First of all, the reason I haven't uploaded a YouTube video in almost the last 2 months is because my grandmother, who's 97 years old, has been in the hospital, and now she has to move from one retirement home to another one. So starting tomorrow, I'm going to help her move over the next week, and my great aunt, who's actually 100 years old, fell and broke her hip. She needed surgery at age 100, and she's still in the hospital, so I've been busy visiting them and spending time with them. But this video here, the topic is Ron Harris. Ron Harris, for those of you who don't follow bodybuilding, I obviously, put it mildly, obviously, I'm not a bodybuilder. Never have claimed to be a bodybuilder. I don't compete in bodybuilding. I have nothing against people who compete in bodybuilding or any other kind of stage show, be it men's classic physique or anything else. Any of the female competitors who do those stage bodybuilding related shows, I have nothing against them. I'm not suited for it. I'm not cut out for it. I admit that. So, and also I have nothing against people that take steroids. That's somebody's personal choice to take steroids. It's not. It's their own personal choice. Their own. It's their own right, in my opinion. It's their own personal choice. But Ron Harris, who is probably, I would say, now that Sean Perrine sadly has passed away, and may God bless Sean Perrine. Ron Harris is probably the top bodybuilding journalist out there. He writes for Muscular Development. I am a subscriber to the actual magazine, not in digital format, of Muscular Development. And he wrote an article, I believe it's in the latest issue, at least in Canada it's in the latest issue, because on the issue it says displayed magazine until June 4th. It's an article Ron Harris wrote about how to get bigger biceps, or how to get 21-inch arms, 21 tips for getting 21-inch arms, or something like that. And I read it, and I couldn't help but notice that he made a reference that towards some people who post on YouTube who do heavier sheet dumbbell curls in this article that he wrote. I've talked to Ron Harris at least 3, 4, 5 times on, I believe, once on his Facebook fan page or on Facebook Messenger, very briefly though, and in the comment section maybe for his YouTube channel. But I've never talked to him on the phone or met him in person. He lives far away. I live in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. He lives somewhere in the Boston, Massachusetts area. I will put a link below this video, link you to his website. He probably has lots of good information on there related to bodybuilding. And I'm just going to reiterate, I'm not a bodybuilder, never have been. I don't want to compete in bodybuilding. I do cheat dumbbell curls as it relates to odd lifting competitively. I'm not a bodybuilder, never have claimed to be one. I'm not disrespecting bodybuilders. I'm not disrespecting people who choose to use steroids or growth hormone. Okay, not disrespecting any bodybuilders or people who choose to use performance-enhancing drugs like anabolic androgenic steroids or growth hormones. So In this article, Ron Harris wrote that you can find guys on YouTube cheat curling 90-pound, 100-pound, even 150-pound dumbbells. Now, I'm one of the guys he's referring to in that, because I have talked to him online. I don't know him well, but he has seen some of my videos. I also imagine he's referring to Cali Muscle, who is, I guess, a bodybuilder, Cali Muscle. I'm not a fan of his channel. I respect the heavy dumbbell hammer curls Cali Muscle does. I'm not here to diss Cali Muscle. He's referring to me. He's referring to Cali Muscle. He's probably referring to Alexei Vovoda in Russia. He's referring to Kirill Sarichev in Russia. He's probably referring to Denis Cyplenkov, the world champion arm wrestler, also in Russia. So, and various other guys in Europe, a few in the United States. Some are strongman competitors in modern strongman. Some are power lifters. Some are competitive arm wrestlers. Some specialize, like me, in odd lifting. Some are kettlebell athletes. He's referring to me and some of those other guys. Cali Muscle, who has makes a decent amount of money on YouTube. He's very powerful with his. Back in the day, he used to be able to do 100-pound alternating cheat dumbbell curls. Cali Muscle. I don't know if he still does, but he's still very able and apt to, with his heavy hammer curls. So I'm not just Cali Muscle is still impressive, you know. He's stronger than most bodybuilders at that movement. In fact, almost all of them. The one time I came into contact with Ron Harris was when I made a comment. It could have been on Ron Harris's or Muscular Development's YouTube channel. It was a few years back, 5 years back maybe. Could have been on Steve Kuclo, the IFBB pro bodybuilder. Steve the King Snake Kuclo's YouTube channel. In the video, Steve Kuclo, he's wearing wrist straps, very heavy wrist straps. He's wearing a very heavy belt, weightlifter's belt. He's using hand chalk, and he does alternating cheat dumbbell curls, I believe, with 110-pound dumbbells, 3 times in each arm. This was posted maybe in 2013 or 2014. And for a bodybuilder, that's what Steve the King Snake Kuclo did in that video. Is probably the most impressive I've seen, you know, since the advent of the internet anyway. I know Kevin Levrone back in the early 90s and late 80s was very strong on standing cheat alternating dumbbell curls, and before that, of course, Franco Colombo, I don't know how to pronounce his name, and of course Lou Ferrigno. And even Arnold was not bad at them, Arnold Schwarzenegger. But, I was impressed by Steve Kuclo. He's not quite at the level of a guy, say, like another bodybuilder who's not, I don't know if he's an IFBB pro or not. He's not at the level of a Cali Muscle and strength in that movement, but of all the guys who make a living on the bodybuilding stage as IFBB pros, I would say right now at that movement, Steve, the King Snake Kuclo, is the strongest at that movement for sure. You can just look up the video in the YouTube search section. You'll say, type in Steve Kuclo 110-pound dumbbell curls. He's impressive for a bodybuilder. He's the most impressive in this decade anyway, since 2010 to present. Of all the active IFBB pro bodybuilders, Steve Kuclo, the King Snake, is the best at that movement. Now, he's not at the level of a guy like, say, Cali Muscle, who mixes powerlifting and even some strongman stuff in with his bodybuilding training. And he's definitely not at the level of a guy like me or some of these guys in Russia who, in their training, heavy curls is basically the main focus in our training. So, but for a bodybuilder, if he devoted more time, of course, it would be ridiculous for him because there's no money, hardly at all, next to no money in odd lifting, and he's making a good living in probably in bodybuilding, but he has potential. He's one of them who I could see doing well in an odd-lifting contest and winning, depending on how much he came in body weight. So if he was able to dip his body weight, Steve the King Snake Kuclo, to below, say, 232 pounds and not compete as a heavyweight instead of a super heavyweight, he would actually be doing pretty good. But in the super heavyweight class, he would run into problems. But I'm impressed with Steve Kuclo, and I don't know if he still trains heavy like that. He probably doesn't, because it puts him at risk for injury. I can understand that. But when he did that, that was impressive. And like I said, if he ever dropped to below 232 pounds in body weight,
call from interruptions.
phone's ringing there. Sorry for that interrupting. Now, if Steve Kuclo was able to cut weight, so he weighs less than 232 pounds. If he was able to do that, sorry about the phone ringing again, he was able to compete at heavyweight, so come in at around 230 pounds. In an odd-lifting contest, he would do well. He would be competitive, but in super heavyweight, like I said, he would run into more problems due to the due to 120-pound dumbbells being used in the super heavyweight class versus 95-pound dumbbells being used in the heavyweight class. So back to Ron Harris. He mentioned guys like, the guys in Russia, alluded to guys like Cali Muscle, alluded to definitely me, because years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I talked to him on the comment section for that Steve Kuclo video where he does the 110-pound alternating dumbbell curls, and he said, I remember him saying at the time, Paul, Steve's training heavy, but he's not doing this to prove how much he can cheat dumbbell curl like you can. He's not trying to make it an impressive feat of strength like you are, Paul. He's just training for hypertrophy, and he's a bodybuilder, not a weightlifter. And he's right. Ron Harris is right. And I don't disagree with Ron Harris. The only really thing I disagree with is that Ron Harris in this article, in the latest issue of Muscular Development, he does clarify there's a difference between a weightlifter and a bodybuilder. I'm a weightlifter. I don't train at all for physical appearance, for how I look physically at all. I don't care how I physically look, how my body physically looks, only for performance in cheat dumbbell curls as it relates to odd lifting. I could care less about having muscles or definition or anything like that. So what he says, Ron Harris says, do you want a body that impresses people all the time, not just when you're in the gym? Like, say, if the guy does a heavy set of dumbbell curls, even in semi-strict form, that would impress people just when you're in the gym. But guys like me or whoever he's referencing to have an average body, or in my case, far below average from bodybuilding perspective, far below what a bodybuilder would have. So far, Ronnie Harris, so far. So, but he's referring to the fact that in the gym, somebody who's a weightlifter who focuses on strength instead of how their body looks can impress the other trainers or people working out in a gym setting. But once they leave that gym and exit the gym, their bodies aren't that impressive like a bodybuilder's body would be. And I agree with Ron Harris. My body doesn't impress people unless they see me doing heavy sets in a very, very competitive, a very, very competitive set. There goes the phone again. I'm sorry, guys. A very, very, very competitive heavy set of cheat dumbbell curls. Unless they see me do that.
Call from interruptions.
unless they see me do that in the gym and witness it with their own eyes or see one of my YouTube videos, then they won't be impressed with. They'll only be impressed seeing me do when they see me do those heavy lifts with the cheat dumbbell curls in a gym. Outside of the gym, yes, my body does not look impressive. I agree with Ron Harris. He's 100% right. But he has to understand that guys like me or like other people who compete in strongman or sport of kettlebell or arm wrestling, odd lifting, don't care how their bodies physically look. It's just about winning. It's about winning in the competition, in the weightlifting, in the strength-based competition, not on the environment of being on a stage and being judged how your body looks. So I think Ron Harris, he doesn't have a lot of experience. He might have done some powerlifting meets. He might still maybe compete a little bit in powerlifting, but he's never been at a high level in strongman or powerlifting. Like I'm talking a high level, like I am at odd lifting. So I don't totally take what he says seriously, although I respect him highly. He's a great authority on bodybuilding and everything related to bodybuilding, but on strength related things such as odd lifting, and right now I'm talking, and for the most part in this video, about odd lifting as it relates to heavy cheat dumbbell curls. He is definitely not an authority on that, I can tell you that. He's not a weak man himself. He, with heavy wrist straps on and a heavy belt and hand chalk, I've seen, I believe, videos of him cheat dumbbell alternate curling 85 reps for 4 reps in each arm. He's not weak, but he's not at the level, if he ever competed in odd lifting, to ever be competitive. Unless, well, I wouldn't even say that. I would say he would need to put a lot of time into it. He would have to train raw without the hand chalk, without the wrist straps, without the weight lift, without the belt. So me and him, two totally different worlds, focusing on very different things. Very, 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 very completely different, polar opposite things. And I appreciate that Ron Harris in that article did clarify between weightlifting and bodybuilding. Sorry about that, phone. Just give me a second, guys. I know this is somewhat comic relief for my video.
Call from interruptions.
There you go, guys. You got your comic relief. That was my mom phoning. You got your comic relief in my YouTube video. She called, I don't know what, was that the 4th time? I talked to her, told her not to phone back for the next 5-10 minutes here so I can finish this fucking video up. This video is already fucked up, but whatever. Ron Harris, as it relates to bodybuilding, training, and the bodybuilding lifestyle, listen to Ron Harris. He's very smart. He has the education. He has the experience. He's a nice man. He's kind. Listen to him. But Ronnie Harris does not know what he's talking about when it comes to odd lifting, although I'm sure he has a respect of any type of strength sport, be it powerlifting, strongman, highland games, odd lifting, arm wrestling, kettlebell. I'm sure he has a knowledge and respect of it, but he's not an authority on those things, especially odd lifting. So, like I said, I'm definitely going to keep on reading his column. I subscribe to Muscular Development because I find it, at times, not all the time, at times you will find tips in there, and they do relate to odd lifting training, very occasionally, not all the time, not in every issue, but you will find little bits and pieces that will relate to odd lifting training once in a while in there from different bodybuilders, especially guys who have trained heavier. So that's why I subscribe to that magazine, and it's a quality magazine, It has a lot of quality articles in there. It has the steroid lawyer, as he's known, Rick Collins. He's a big fountain of knowledge for what he does. Of course, the anabolic doc, who made a response video years ago to me where he was doing seated 85-pound semi-strict form alternating dumbbell curls. Dr. Thomas O'Connor. In fact, I'll link you to the websites, not just of Ron Harris, but of Dr. Thomas O'Connor and of Rick Collins as well underneath. Dr. Tom O'Connor, now that's a guy who knows what he's talking about in strength competitions. I'm sure he still competes in powerlifting. He's strong as hell. He probably, back in the 90s, he would have been, for his weight class, he would have been in the top 20 in the world for odd lifting. I'm assuming that would have been middleweight or heavyweight, not super heavyweight. But he's strong. Now Dr. Thomas O'Connor, he's the real deal. I don't know how old he is, maybe 55, 56. Ron Harris is probably turning 49 this year. I'm not sure how old Rick Collins is, but back in the day, Dr. Tom O'Connor was the real deal in powerlifting and in other strength sports. So no disrespect, just big props for Dr. Tom O'Connor, the anabolic doc. And I'm giving big props to Rick Collins too. Even his article is interesting, even though it doesn't relate to me personally. And big props to Ron Harris, a guy who's, in my opinion, the best bodybuilding journalist out there right now. He has the most experience, the most credentials, the most education, and he has the best writing skills out of any of them. So no diss to Ron Harris, no disrespect. It's just, I wish he would have clarified a little more between weightlifting, in this case odd lifting, heavy cheat dumbbell curls, and hypertrophy arm training that you would do as a bodybuilder. Now, I agree with them. My body does not impress people. Only the lifts I do, if I do heavy odd lifting training sets, that impresses people in the gym. What does not impress them is how my body looks when I'm out of the gym. He's right, bodybuilders 24/7 will have the physiques to impress people. He's 100% correct. I don't care how my body physically looks. I only care about the heavy dumbbell cheat curls. He's correct. And so, but I just wish he would do a little more research on odd lifting or heavy dumbbell cheat curls before he kind of makes them sound like they're not easy to do, but kind of makes them sound like, this is just useless kind of stuff in a way. But then again, Ron Harris's good friend Steve, the King Snake Kuclo, has done what I would typify or categorize as odd lifting himself. So with that set I told you about before, Steve Kuclo definitely did, if Ron Harris wants to call it ego cheat dumbbell curling, Steve Kuclo is guilty of it himself, because in the past he has done it. He maybe didn't use full range of motion for supination, but he still did it. He still cheated, and he lifted heavier than he normally did, in 110 pounds. So, anyways, I'm not dissing anybody. I'm just saying, clarifying, huge difference between odd lifting, and that is cheat dumbbell curls, and bodybuilding, the stage sport of bodybuilding, physique building, where you're judged on a stage how your body looks. There's polar opposites, okay? Totally different things. Totally different. I am no authority on bodybuilding. Ron Harris knows something about strength training, but he's not an authority on odd lifting. I will link you to Ron Harris's website. If you're interested in bodybuilding, I highly recommend you check it out, because he is an authority, as I said, on bodybuilding. I will link you to Rick Collins, the lawyer's website. He is an authority on legal issues related to steroids and the bodybuilding community. And I will link you to the website of Dr. Thomas O'Connor. He is an authority, a medical doctor. He is an authority on steroids, and I'm not saying he uses steroids himself, but on how steroids affect the human body. He has studied this. Dr. Tom O'Connor is an authority on that. I'll link you to those three guys' websites. And I'll also, if I can find the video, I'll link you to the video of Steve the King Snake Kuclo doing those heavy dumbbell curls in that set that he did. Again, sorry for all these phone calls going on as I'm making the video. And I'm sorry for not uploading a video for nearly 2 months. I'll upload my next video in between probably June 18th and between June 18th and June 24th. That'll be when I'll upload my next YouTube video. Still saving up money. I've recently socked some money away to buy a better camera so I don't have to film on this cruddy built-in cam here. I'm still working towards that. And in recent news, I have talked to an owner of a gym here in Edmonton, a strength training gym, and I will be taking my dumbbell there to practice doing heavy odd-lifting sets after I help my grandmother move, in the next probably 3 weeks, I would say. I have dumbbells behind me, not heavy ones, but behind this couch, and I've been doing lots of consistent training every day almost, trying different rep ranges and different techniques. Not heavy, because the heaviest dumbbell I have here is only 35 pounds in my small apartment, but I have been just trying different motions out with supination, with rep range, doing very high reps, as high as 50 reps in each arm to as low as 3 reps with 35 pounds. Things that would help me in odd lifting. And once I'm able to get my plate set dumbbell to that gym over this summer, over the second half of June, July, August, and September, I will work myself back up into heavy odd lifting training, and I'll work myself towards getting to that personal best. That might come in early 2019. You know, the 10 reps in my right arm, 9 reps in left, that's going to come in 2019. When I get to 16 reps again, 9 in right, 7 in left, I will post that up. I should have my new camera by then. And when I get to 17, I'll post that on the channel, and 18, and then of course 19, which would be my personal best, move me up in the world rankings. That'll be next year, sometime next year. Could be even a year from now when I hit the 10 in right and 9 in left for a total of 19. But I will get there, guys. I'm training hard. And I want to say God bless to Ron Harris, Rick Collins, Steve the King Snake Kuclo, and Dr. Thomas O'Connor, and Kali Muscle, and Kirill Sarichev, and Alexei Vovoda, and Kali Muscle, and Denis Cyplenkov, guys who I've mentioned in this video. All of these guys are very knowledgeable guys. They're to be respected. And I'll link you to those websites I've spoken on, and that video, if I can find it, of Steve the King Snake Kuclo, Steve Kuclo. And God bless, guys. My next video should be up in around 3 weeks' time. Thanks.